Alright, so originally had intended to do this review of the Model Y after having it for about 6 weeks now and putting on just over 1,500 miles on it. Wanted to do that review as we took our road trip out to the beach in the Hamptons, but recorded a ton of that, and we ended up losing all of the audio from that basically. So sorry for the incongruities and inconsistency in filming, but I'm gonna try to capture as much of that as I can again, and then splice in the footage and stuff from our drive out, which was much more scenic than this drive just to daycare. We also just got a new software update since that drive, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that because it brought a couple of new features, including one you'll see here, where it can use the cameras to detect the state of the red lights. So you see here, I have like I don't have full self-driving on here, but it'll actually show what color the lights are, and it'll give a chime now when it turns green, which is kind of nice in case you're not paying attention, or you know, there's traffic or something that means you can't see it, but the car can. And then it also said that it added another improvement where it uses the camera that is here to detect if you're actually watching the road or not while you have Autopilot on, and it'll give you alerts and chimes if it detects that you're not looking at the road. So good for safety. And then it also said there were some seatbelt improvements where it can use vision to, I guess, maybe detect if you're about to crash, and can then tighten up the seatbelts preemptively for that. So some good safety improvements that you know, have come, and you know, it just goes to show the strength that Tesla has with the ability to deliver software updates so frequently. I think we've had this car for 6 weeks now, and we've already gotten at least 3, maybe 4 or 5 even software upgrades that have brought little features like that to the car, and continuously improve it over time. Yeah, so I think the software updates are a big differentiator for Tesla over certainly the more legacy like gas cars, but even, you know, for a lot of the electric vehicle manufacturers too. I know that like they're catching up, and some of the ones that, you know, are I guess not necessarily startups, but the kind of EV first companies like Rivian, Lucid, Polestar, it seems like they're getting better and better at it, but they're still not at the point where they're sending software updates with the same frequency as Tesla. Plus Tesla's done some like pretty major upgrades where they've completely revamped the UI for better or worse, although now I'm kind of getting used to it and it's okay, but I really didn't like when they changed to this version last year. They've also added more range, better performance, a ton of safety things, so it's really nice to, you know, feel like your car is constantly getting better rather than what it used to be like, where you had what you had when you picked up the car and it only deteriorated over time. So quite nice to have that. So going from a gas car to an EV, one of the immediate things that you notice is just how different the driving is, whether that's the acceleration and the instant torque that you get from electric drive motors, as well as just sort of the handling and nimbleness that you get with the cars. I think, you know, even though it's a very heavy car, it doesn't feel like it because all of the weight is basically down at the bottom in the batteries. So very good stability. Cornering is, you know, pretty good even for a pretty large car, and you know, it certainly feels like you're able to, you know, very, very connected to the road. Sort of has that like go-kart like handling, and it certainly packs an acceleration and speed punch. So this is the long range, which has dual motors, which means, you know, motor both at the front and the back. And when you punch it, yeah, you fly. You know, even comparing this to the Model 3 that we had before, and the Model, which was a standard range, and the Model 3 that we briefly had before selling it, yeah, it's not, you know, quite as nice as those. The 3, it's a smaller car, it's lower to the ground, feels a little bit more connected, accelerates faster. You know, it feels a little bit more sports car-y, or definitely more sports sedan like than this. But this is no slouch either. This thing will certainly get you on the highway very quick. Lets you zip in and out of traffic situations. I have no concerns about like rapidly avoiding unsafe situations. And even though it's not quite as connected to the road, you can feel the height and the weight a little bit more here than in the 3. It's still super fun to drive, and I don't regret not keeping the 3 for that specifically. Nor do I regret not getting the performance version of this, which does have a little bit stiffer suspension and a little bit less roll. But this is I think a great blend between comfort, convenience, and performance. There are plenty of times when I have got onto the highway and not realized how fast I was going because of the combination of performance and just how quiet this thing is, especially at high speeds. So I have to constantly be careful that I'm not going 90 or 100 even sometimes when I'm accelerating past traffic and stuff. One other aspect of the performance and driving dynamics is the one pedal driving. So it's something you get with a lot of EVs, but not necessarily all of them. So you have regenerative braking, which is where when you take your foot off the accelerator, it'll actually put energy back into the batteries through the motor. And so rather than using like the brake pads, it is actually using the motor to slow you down. And so it's actually great for maintainability because you end up not putting a lot of wear on the brakes as a result. And it takes a little bit of getting used to. It's probably like the thing that people struggle with the most first. But once you get used to it, you really end up being able to drive entirely with just one foot. Don't have to like touch the brake pedal at all, because you get used to like how much you can kind of take your foot off the pedal and either kind of continue coasting or slow down or completely come to a stop. So even at like red lights and stoplights, even in traffic, I'm pretty much able to get by without touching the brakes very often in this car. Although I would say that another thing comparing the Y to the 3, since it was a little bit lighter, you didn't have to rely on the brakes as much as you do with the Y. Every once in a while, like if I have to make an abrupt stop, I do have to use the brakes here, whereas in the 3 I feel like that was a little bit less often. So while I've got these guys in here, I want to talk a little bit about comfort and practicality. So a big reason that we decided to keep the Y instead of the 3 was for the extra room and having that extra trunk space. So it's a couple of inches wider, which makes it a little bit easier to get all 3 car seats in here, although it's definitely still pretty tight, and I guess I've gotten used to getting the seat belts buckled at this point, but it is a bit of a struggle because the middle seat especially is not really wide enough for a full-on seat. So even though we've got the toddler seat there, the booster seats next to it end up kind of having to go like underneath it to plug in the seat belt because the latches are there. So I mean, it's fine and safe and everything. It's just like a little bit of a arm gymnastics routine to get all the kids buckled in. We could have gone with the 7-seat option, which adds the 3rd row, but that basically takes up a tremendous amount of your trunk space. It's hard to get in and out of that last row. It's not like there's an extra row of doors or anything, so you have to go in through the back seat. And we didn't really think it was worth it for us, because we can make do like this, and it'll only be another probably, what would it be, about 2 more years with the toddler seat before we move up to booster in the middle, and these guys won't need their boosters too much longer, so it'll get a little bit easier over time. But it's also really nice to have that extra trunk space for our road trip out to the Hamptons. It was only an overnight trip, but we had a bunch of beach stuff with us, so we were able to fit all of that no problem in the trunk. It was 5 beach chairs, an umbrella, a folding tent, all of their shovels and buckets and everything, 2 boogie boards, and all of our clothes for that evening as well as the next day, which we put in duffel bags up in the frunk. So Another thing for people coming to the world of EVs from gas-powered cars is, since there's no engine in the front, you actually have that as usable space. Tesla is pretty good with that. I'd say really the only ones that aren't necessarily better are probably Ford, where you have a lot of space up there. Plus, they actually have it set so that you can use it as like a cooler. It's got a drain plug and everything for that. So Tesla doesn't have that, but the space is pretty big compared to a bunch of other EVs. Some of the more like legacy EV manufacturers haven't really figured out how to like make that usable space yet, and you either get like no frunk at all, or it's like a really small one where you can really only fit like a little tiny bag. Whereas here you get a bit more usable space, like even enough for a couple bags. So I think we fit 2 duffel bags up there and some towels.
We already know about Mommy's new Rivian.
Mm-hmm. Are you guys excited for Mommy's new Rivian to come sometime, hopefully?
Mm-hmm. What does a Rivian look like?
Ooh, Rivian looks like sort of.
Pickup for like a Model 4. Well, not a Model 4, but it looks like a Buick too, but it's not a Buick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit like the Buick. Yeah, it's kind of it's like a big car like that, and a little bit
what color is it?
Boxy.
What color?
Oh, it's gonna be blue.
Light blue.
Pretty light blue, yeah. So on our road trip, one of the things that really stood out was the range and charging. So it was a great test for that. So our trip out was just long enough. I think it was about 120, 130 miles, something around that. Which was just far enough that in the old standard range we could make it out there, but had to charge immediately on the way back. And with the long range, we thought we should just about have enough range to get there. So this car, when fully charged, shows a range of 303 miles. But in reality, I think you actually end up getting closer to like 280, maybe 290 if you really kind of hypermile it. So that 303 is based off of the EPA range cycle testing, which is fully ideal conditions, meaning like you're barely using the air conditioning. It's at or below the speed limit the whole time. And so if you're driving in real world conditions, obviously you're gonna get less than that. All right, so for our road trip, we charged up to 100%. We are already down to 86%, showing 282 miles. It was showing 326 at 100%.
Yes.
And we actually closed the gap a little bit. So projected range 276 versus 282. So not that bad. I think Autopilot is helping a little bit, and we're not really blasting the AC or anything right now. So we will keep an eye on that. The nice thing is it is showing 56% arrival, so we should have more than enough to get back home, but we'll check that out. There is a 250 kilowatt V3 supercharger out on Long Island. That wouldn't be the worst thing to check out, but if we don't have to, of course we're not going to. Almost at our destination. We are now showing a 56% state of charge at arrival, which is about what we left with, so that's actually pretty good. At one point we had gone up to 58% after being in some traffic and going slower on the highway and stuff. But we're back down to 56, so pretty happy with that. It didn't degrade more than expected. I think we went 120 miles or so. Is it 120? We 126, and we are at 186 now. We started with about 326, so we lost 140 from that range. So about 20 miles difference between the full-on estimated range, or the rated range, and actual, which is honestly, compared to what I normally have seen here, not that bad. So it looks like we'll have no problem. Now back up to 57%. Looks like we'll have no problem getting all the way back home from here without having to charge again. So yeah, because we ended up driving around a little bit while we were out there, and due to some of the traffic and stuff, We did end up deciding to charge on the way back home. I think we maybe would have been able to make it back fully, but it would have been super close. And because of the traffic that we had, it was it would have been like really stressful through the whole thing. So I'm definitely glad that we stopped, and you know, it was really convenient anyway. The charging station out there was fantastic. It was right near a bunch of restaurants and stuff. I mean, we didn't actually get out and do anything because we only needed to charge for about 10 minutes. But great V3 supercharger that gave us 250 kilowatts for a little bit, which is incredibly fast, and good to know that this car doesn't even max out at that rate. Other than it, you know, did kind of come trickling back down as the car filled up. But with that speed, we got 25% charge in just about 10 minutes. So awesome charging experience, probably the best that we've ever had. And you know, speaks to one of the big benefits of Tesla, which is the charging network. You've got the superchargers, which are specific to Tesla, at least for now. Although there is discussion about opening them up to other non-Tesla EVs. But for now, at least, they're only for Teslas. And even though there are, you know, a ton of Teslas out on the road and everything, you know, you can definitely still find ones where you end up being like one of two cars there, and you're not sharing a lot of power or anything, so you get really good speeds on them. So it's always worth checking though on the map. First of all, how many open stalls there are to make sure you're not going to be sitting and waiting, and second of all, to check what speeds the max is there. So I always look for a 250 charger rather than a 150 because it makes a pretty significant difference, not only in like that peak power output, but kind of throughout the entire range of charging, as well as the fact that the 250 ones are generally not shared power between the stalls in the supercharging. So means that if another car pulls up next to you, or you know, if there aren't enough spots and you have to park next to somebody, you're not effectively going 50-50 on the power. You're getting your own fully dedicated power, which makes charging faster. It was also interesting at that charging station because it was the first time I've actually been up close and seen Electrify America chargers. So Electrify America is the set of chargers that is being built out largely by Volkswagen, but some of the other manufacturers as well. Part of the build out was their Dieselgate repercussions and settlement, but they're, you know, expanding more and more. I would say, you know, I mean, the nice thing about them is they work for every other car other than Tesla's. Although right now you can actually start getting a like adapter that will go on the end of those chargers and allow you to charge your Tesla. But you know, if Tesla does end up moving to that standard, or the charging standard in the US ends up adapting Tesla, then you won't have to worry about that, and things will be more interoperable. But for now, at least, they are separate, and you can't really use them together unless you get that adapter. So sometimes they have much higher charging speed ones. So they have ones that go all the way up to 350 kilowatts. It seems like Tesla is just starting to, I'd say, consider putting 350s in, but haven't actually been installing them, at least out here yet. I think there might be a couple out sort of in the Midwest and like the Rockies, but certainly not out here right now. So you can get faster speeds on it, although a lot of cars can't really accept that speed. I think really the main ones that can right now are the Rivian and the three cars built on Hyundai's platform, which is the Hyundai Ioniq, the Kia EV6, and the Genesis GV60. Those can do like almost 250 or so. But it was cool to see those chargers up close because I haven't really experienced them before. And this was the first spot where they actually had both Tesla and Electrify America installed that I'd seen before. So it was out in Hoppage, New York, on Long Island. It was also, that charging went so quickly that all three boys were asleep in the back seat and didn't even wake up throughout it. So that was quite nice too. And one of the nice things with you know, having an electric car versus gas is that, you know, when you're sitting, you're not like idling. You can sit inside the car and have the climate running, and not you know, be running the engine and spewing exhaust and everything. So really nice for that. And really a lot of the cool features that Tesla have to do with the climate system, and being able to, you know, run that when the car is like not in drive. Car kind of never really goes off, but you can, you know, selectively use which parts of it you want, whether it's the drivetrain or climate or you know, cameras and things like that. So with the climate, you have a bunch of different options. The one that we probably use the most is dog mode. So dog mode allows you to leave the climate on while your dog is inside, keeping the air conditioning running or the heat on to maintain a temperature. It even puts up a big display on the front screen that stays on, so other people can see that, you know, your dog's not like overheating in the car, and call the police or something. And it says like what the temperature is, and my owner will be right back, and things like that. So we love using that. Hershey loves that as well. We haven't really used camping mode yet, but that's a mode that'll allow you to like keep the climate running even overnight, although it'll shut it off once you get down to 20% so that you don't completely destroy the range on the car. We'll probably end up using that fairly soon because I ordered a tent from Tesloid that's specifically designed for this car, attaches to the back, so that you can leave the trunk open, and that is then like becomes part of the tent. It's got an inflatable mattress that goes in the trunk. I think that is I don't remember if it's a twin or a queen, but like basically custom molded to the back of the car. And then the main part of it will fit like another air mattress as well. So we're gonna try that out with the boys one of these weekends soon to see how that ends up working and try out camping mode. And then the last one that we ended up using on the way back from the beach is called bioweapon defense mode, which uses the HEPA air filters and just runs like recirculation of the air through the car to like pull out all of the I guess like particulate matter and negative air quality things. We used it because after a day on the beach with everybody swimming and sweating and sunblock and everything, there was a big stank in this car. And so running that helped kind of pull that out and, you know, got that like damp, funky boy stench out of the car really quickly, actually, like probably only 10 minutes, and it completely went away and it hasn't come back at all since. So really glad that this car has that mode because our old 3 did not have that. And one of the cool things is you can actually run all of those directly through the app and don't even have to be in the car. So you can take control of all of those things. You can also precondition the climate in the car. So we do that a lot, like when we're off and doing something and then coming back to the car. So especially on a hot day, if the inside of the car is, you know, 90, 100, 120 degrees, we can run the air conditioning to cool it down and kind of vent it out before we get there, so that then when we're, you know, getting all the kids in the car and getting settled, we're not all sitting in here sweating. So that's super nice to have, and probably a feature I could not live without again. Now, obviously, I haven't had this car long enough to test it out in the winter, but I'll certainly rely on the heat during that as well. And this car even has a heated steering wheel, which we didn't have in the old 3. So I'm looking forward to that also. And it's even got heated seats throughout the back too. So not that it really makes a difference since the kids are in, you know, their car seats, but nice to have that at least for when they get older and for when we're driving other people around. The app is also really nice when you're charging because you can control starting and stopping the charger remotely. You can see exactly how much power you're getting, how many miles you've added, what your current range is, battery percent, and you can monitor all of that remotely and know like when you want to come back to the car. Also see like if you're getting close to finishing your charging, so that especially if the chargers are full, a lot of them have started charging pretty high rates of idle fees to prevent you from just like leaving your car there after it's done charging so that other people can use it. So it's nice to be able to see like as you're getting to that, and you'll actually get, you know, notifications and warnings as you're approaching those limits. So this car is you know, no slouch in the performance realm, even though it's not the performance model. So this one will do 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds, which definitely feels very fast. Here, we'll give it a little kick now just to show. Yeah, definitely fast enough, and you know, even though the performance takes that down significantly to 3.1 seconds, I mean, honestly, the number of times that you really need to do a launch like that are extremely limited, and it's just for fun. So, you know, if you're doing track days and or autocross or you know, more kind of performance driving, I would get why you'd want performance. But this car performs very well, and you know, especially coming from any gas car, the acceleration is just insane, and you are not going to feel like you're missing anything by not getting the performance. Overall quality is you know, pretty good in this car. It's not a very creaky car. I really don't hear any creaks, squeaks, leaks while we're driving. We just did a car wash. We've driven through a couple of rainstorms, and it's not like water's getting in or anything. I'm not noticing any like fit and finish issues. I mean, you know, it's pretty basic in here, but everything is like well put together and you know, holding together well. I didn't have any issues over 3 years with the Model 3. Other than our trunk liner did end up getting disconnected, but I'm pretty sure that's because I shoved a suitcase in there really hard one time, and I think that loosened it up. And then like when we were driving over the potholes that New Jersey is famous for, that kind of loosened it up and knocked it off. But they replaced that under warranty. I didn't even have to take it in anywhere. They just came out and did like a remote service for it, and like they did all of that on their own. I didn't even have to really like even see that anybody was here doing it. So that was super convenient and easy. And then this car, you know, is very nice and quiet. The only noise you get is like road noise, you know, kind of coming up through the wheels and the suspension, a little bit of wind noise on the windows, but the dual pane glass that they put in the newer cars helps cut down that a bit, and it is quite nice and you know, relaxing in here. Sure, you hear the road a little bit, but you know, compared to a gas combustion car where you're just constantly hearing, you know, the whine of the engine and everything, this is, you know, nearly silent. The only squeaks that you get in here are the ones from their car seats rubbing against each other. All right, one more wardrobe change for you. Hope you can appreciate the number of sacrifices I make to keep these videos interesting for you. But, you know, I'm willing to do it for you, my loyal viewers. It's you that make this all possible and worth doing. So, sorry that the other video didn't work and you didn't get to watch me in my hot dad summer tank top for the whole video, but this is what we got today. I also hope you are enjoying the various scenery, kind of B-roll from our trip. We ended up taking a little bit of a detour to get some more interesting views over the bridges and stuff through New York, to make it a little bit more interesting, and then ended up sitting in a ton of traffic for it. So I also hope that that was worthwhile. And as I was just pulling the car out of the garage, a chipmunk went scampering around and is clearly living in the garage because I found a bunch of our bird seed that was broken into and scattered around throughout various things in the garage. So I guess I'll be dealing with a chipmunk situation later as well. Lucky me. Alright, so since I'm the pinnacle of cool, I did want to talk about the cool factor with the Tesla as well, or lack thereof. So I feel like when this car first came out, it definitely stood out more. You know, certainly the initial models, the S and the X, you know, were more unique, more kind of luxury, up brand, and as like really the first, you know, true mass market, or maybe not mass market, but first like aspirational electric vehicles, they had a certain je ne sais quoi to them. And I feel like even, you know, the 3 and the Y still had that as well when they first came out, but now as time has gone on, and you know, there's so many other EVs out there, and some of them are, you know, much more unique and interesting looking. You know, the Mach-E has got at least the like Mustang branding going for it. The Ioniq and EV6 have, you know, pretty cool retro futuristic styling. And then, you know, Lucid, Rivian, don't necessarily look like super different from other cars, but they definitely are noticeable, and as like new brands certainly stand out. Same thing kind of for Polestar too. So I feel like you know, a combination of that and the fact that, you know, something around 75% of the EVs on the road right now are Teslas, just means that, you know, they're so much more commonplace now, and They feel more, utilitarian and more kind of a dime a dozen, especially around here. And so they really don't stand out, and it certainly doesn't feel like you're cool or trend-setting or anything with it right now. So I do wish that Tesla would maybe, make some changes to styling to help with that. Maybe do some things to differentiate the different models a little bit more, or even have, different trim lines that were more easily differentiated to stand out a little bit more, and at least make some of the cars feel a little bit more unique and different and interesting than they do right now, because it's just way too commonplace right now. So talking about some of the major features that stand out and differentiate this Tesla from other EVs and EVs in general from other combustion cars. One has to be the driver assist systems on here. So, again, something that's becoming more commonplace across EVs. But I do think Tesla is still certainly like industry leading right now with Autopilot. And I'm not even talking about, full self-driving or enhanced Autopilot that add additional features on top. Even just the standard regular Autopilot that you get without having to pay anything extra is fantastic on here, and something I rely very heavily on and don't think I could live without now. So it's basically a driver assistance system. It is not full self-driving. It's not something that you can, take your hands and eyes off the wheel and, read a book or watch a movie or something while the car is driving. It's just something that's there to kind of help add an additional layer of safety and automation for you, so that it just makes driving easier, safer, less fatigue, especially driving on the highway. So it'll keep you in your lane, uses the cameras to do that. It will also maintain your speed, even relative to other cars, and maintain distance between them. So it'll automatically, speed you up or slow you down as traffic changes. So it's actually, usable, I'd say, even in, moderate traffic. Where I think it has gotten less good, actually, though, is in like stop and go traffic and in tight following situations. So Tesla used to put radar as a functionality on their car, and got rid of that and replaced it entirely with a camera-only system. So our old Model 3 actually had radar in it, and it allowed you to follow more closely with Autopilot. It also allowed you to go to a higher top speed. And there's like slowly bringing some of those things back, but the ability to maintain a closer distance to the cars in front of you is lacking in this right now. And it makes a huge difference here in New Jersey, where it's actually, I'd say, like more unsafe to be leaving a long distance, because you just attract a ton of people that end up cutting you off in traffic and creating dangerous situations from it. So I really don't like that, and hope that they can address that soon, because I really miss that from the old one. You do have other functionality where in settings where you can set a speed limit offset or like maximum speed limit that it will automatically pick up. I just use the normal speed limit and then adjust it myself, because I'm kind of old school and used to doing it that way. But it's nice to have the option to like set an automatic offset with it. And it does work very well. It's most of the time I'm able to just let it entirely drive. I say in some, bigger, tighter turns and like higher speed ones, I've been getting a little bit nervous with it, getting close to traffic in like the next lane over, or getting close to barriers and stuff. I feel like it's just a little bit more wobbly, or a little bit more willing to kind of go wide than the old one was with the radar. And I don't know if that's specifically because of that, if it's because of the driving dynamic of the 3 versus the Y, or something else leading to that. But I've just felt a little bit less comfortable with lately, and so I've actually been like disengaging it slightly more often. And kind of taking over and driving myself, because I'm not entirely sure what it's going to do. So I've noticed a couple of other people saying like recent software updates seem to have made it a little bit worse too. So it could be one of these things where it kind of gets worse before it gets better. The nice thing about having the software updates is like they come pretty frequently, so it could be a case where it gets fixed pretty soon. So I'll have to see how that holds up. But right now, still think it's one of the best ones out there, but I actually feel like it has gotten a little bit worse recently. So beyond Autopilot having the full suite of cameras built into this car, provides a couple of other great features and safety aspects. So you have not only collision warnings, but also avoidance. So it'll actually detect if you are about to collide with something, and can, you know, apply the brakes, and potentially even apply steering to prevent that collision from happening, which I think is a fantastic feature to have. I think I mentioned before, you also, with latest software updates, it can now apply the like seatbelt tensioning preemptively as well to help keep you safer in the case of a accident. It will also give you like blind spot warnings, so you can actually use those cameras to you know, see what is in your blind spot as you're turning. There's a setting that came somewhat recently where when you turn the turn signal on, it'll just automatically pop up the camera for the way that you are going to be turning, which I think is a really helpful feature. I haven't really gotten used to it yet, and I'm still like usually used to just like kind of looking over my shoulder and stuff, but it is really nice to have that as sort of a second check before, you know, either turning or merging over. And it'll also give you warnings if you're about to cut into a lane where there is somebody. And it'll actually like show you on the little view with all the cars and everything that there's it'll outline the car in red and warn you about it. It's also cool that it gives you the visualization of what it sees through the cameras. So right now I can see like the cars around me, the lines on the road. It'll show you like if there are traffic cones. It even shows you stop signs and stoplights now. It shows people, motorcycles, you know, any kind of like object that it is detecting, which is great for safety too. So just helps you kind of be more aware of what's going on around you and you know, prevent dangerous situations. Another great feature that you get with the camera is Sentry mode. So it's basically, you know, security mode for the car. You can enable it either all the time when the car is parked or kind of on demand. You can actually also enable it remotely through the app, as well as view the feed through the app if you turn that on, which is really cool. I was able to use that when I was traveling for work and the car was parked at the airport for almost a week. I was able to, you know, kind of patch into the live feed of it and see what was going on around, and you know, get alerted if somebody was really close to the car or anything. And it'll even take recordings if someone is walking close by. And it's great in case, you know, there's a like a hit and run, or somebody bumps you or something. You can get, you know, a recording of that and take action with it, which is good. One of the other really great features in here is the navigation. So not only do you get this, you know, giant display that shows the map, but it's based off of Google Maps, and so you're getting real-time traffic data. It only actually shows the traffic data, like with the yellow and red lines and stuff, if you have the premium connectivity package, which is $10 a month or $99 for the year. But regardless of whether or not you have that, it's always taking traffic data into account for routing, and you know, gives optimal directions based off of that. And it'll even preemptively reroute you like en route if it finds that there's a way that's going to be faster by actually you can set how much faster you need it to be, but I think the default is either 5 or 10 minutes. And it's just really nice to have that on here. It gives you turn-by-turn directions, and it even takes into account it'll give you like a range estimate based off of real-time conditions with weather, traffic. It knows like altitude changes, so obviously you're going to use more range and battery power if you have an uphill climb versus going downhill, where you're going to regenerate some power. And it also takes into account like how you've been driving and everything to give you a somewhat real-time estimate of how much range you're going to arrive with, or if you're not going to make it. And if it detects that you're not going to make it, it'll actually route you past superchargers, tell you exactly how long you need to stop, and when you can move on to the next phase of your journey, which is really nice to have. So it makes it you know, long road trip really kind of brainless, and don't have to like do a lot of advanced planning for, because the car will just handle all of it for you. I've noticed it's not always like fully optimal. If I go through like plug share or something and find where some of the chargers are, I can usually get a slightly more optimal route, but it does a really good job of sort of giving you a default one. and keeping you to some of the faster chargers and ones with less less demand and stuff. So it's definitely very usable, and I use it almost all the time. And I think that's really one of the big advantages with Tesla is that you know that the supercharging network is going to be there. It's going to be reliable. Stuff is going to be well maintained. A lot of the other EVs that rely on either their own networks or Electrify America, you might have the availability of them, but you don't have always like real-time information about how many other cars are there. You don't know which stalls are available or broken, and when they are broken, it just seems like the maintenance of them is much worse and tends to take a lot longer to get them fixed. So it's nice to know that Tesla is actively maintaining them, and I basically have never really run into any that are unavailable, and if they are unavailable, they get fixed very quickly. So another fantastic thing about Tesla, and one that I think is been coming to a lot more cars lately, EVs especially, but it really helps with convenience, is having the ability to use your phone as a key. So you do get these key cards with the car, and you can use these as a key if you prefer. Just sort of these like little black, I think like RFID or Bluetooth enabled, I guess not Bluetooth, RFID enabled cards. If you want to unlock the car, you just hold it up to the pillar, and then to like actually turn the car on and put it in drive, you put it in the center console, sort of near the cup holders, and that works great. It also works like if you need to leave a key for car wash or valet or something. But what's really the most convenient, at least for me, is being able to use your phone as a key, and that just works through Bluetooth. And so as long as your phone's in your pocket, you walk up to the car and it just unlocks by itself when you push the handle, which is super convenient. Works pretty well. I've never really had too much of a problem with it. Every once in a while, like maybe every 6 months or so, it doesn't work and I have to like reset Bluetooth on my phone or something. But overall, it definitely works very well. And like don't have to do major resets or anything like that to get it working. The only problem with it is you can actually tie it to your driver profile, but the issue that I have with that is it seems to be really flaky, like especially if both of us are around, since we both have it tied to our individual phones. So it seriously feels like more than half the time it switches to my wife's profile when I'm driving and vice versa. So it's like wrong more often than it's right, and that's really a pain because the way she has her seat set, if it switches to her profile for me, it basically lifts me out the sunroof here, and my chin goes right into the steering wheel. So don't really enjoy that, and I really wish they would fix that. Probably one of the most inconvenient problems with this car, and seems like something that should be like much easier to deal with. I feel like other cars are doing that much better, and I know Tesla's had the feature for a long time, so it should be something that they could fix quite a bit easier. But the driver profile thing itself is really nice, and even if you're not having it tied to your phone, it's pretty easy to switch it. It saves all of your settings for the steering wheel position, mirrors, seat position, even settings in the car, like the way that you're using the acceleration and things like that. So nice to have that like tied to an individual person, so that just automatically switches between people. One of the things I really don't like about the entertainment system and kind of smart things in here is that it does not have support for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You're stuck just with what is built into the yes, but you're stuck with just what's built in and what Tesla basically decides you can have. So it's nice that you do have navigation in here. You have Spotify, Tidal, and like streaming through, I think, it's a TuneIn. But you because they haven't done an integration with Apple, you don't have Apple Music, for example, or Amazon Music, or Audible or Pocket Casts for podcasts or anything like that. So I think, you know, that's a pretty big downside, and I really don't like that. I like that a lot of other cars have moved to, you know, kind of seeding those functionalities to your phone integration, because they realize that the phone companies can use software much better than them, and people prefer to use those. So I wish that they would oh, that was your foot. I wish that they would do the same thing here and not be so stubborn with relying on their own system. What's really nice about the Model Y over the Model 3 and having this now is that this has really become our daily driver much more than the 3 was. The 3 I was really just using as like my commuting car. Before the pandemic, when I first got it, I was just using it to drive to the park and ride where I took the bus into the city from. And, you know, every once in a while, like if I just had one of the kids or maybe two, but never all three of them, because it was just too tight. And then during the pandemic, when I didn't really have that commute, like we were barely using the car at all. It's only really in the last maybe, you know, 3 months or so, as gas prices got higher, and we just decided that we wanted to use the Tesla more, that we started using the 3 more, like on our weekend trips and stuff. But because it was a standard range and because it was smaller, it really wasn't convenient for, you know, any of our like even weekend trips or our longer kind of day trips or anything. But now having the Y, the long range in particular, has really unlocked that all for us, and we're using this car all the time now. I do the kid runs with this. We're gonna go to skating practice. We did our road trip with it. It's just really convenient for that. It's perfect size to fit us all without feeling massive, and it's completely replaced the gas guzzling, actually the mileage is pretty good on it, but the gas version of the Buick Enclave that we were traditionally using as our regular family car. And even though that car had, you know, 3 rows and 7 seats, you know, we're able to fit comfortably enough in here that 9 times out of 10 we prefer taking this car and saving the money on the gas and everything. And we've already saved a pretty penny on charging and everything. We've only supercharged this car once so far, and the electricity rates at home are so cheap that even with gas prices like starting to come back down now, we're saving a ton compared to driving the bigger SUV around. So it's been really nice to have this, and you know, it's leading us to actually start thinking about, do we really want to keep the gas SUV? We have an order out for the Rivian SUV, but it's still going to be a while for that, so I'm not sure. We may decide, especially with used car sale prices being so in favor of sellers right now, to actually sell that car and maybe get something electric to kind of hold us over until the Rivian's available. But we haven't made a decision about that yet. But I'm really enjoying driving this car every day, and it's part of why we're putting so many more miles on this car than we did on the 3 before. Car also has great interior space. You know, it's not a massive car, but on the inside it feels like you have tons of room. I think the sunroof helps a lot, but just the headroom that you get from that, and you know, the roof liner kind of ending way up here and extending all the way to the back of the hatchback, it feels really wide open in here. And you know, even in the back seat, not that I've ridden a lot in back there, but it really does feel like there's quite a bit of room back there, and you don't feel at all claustrophobic or hemmed in or anything. It's a, you know, a nice place to be even in the back. Plus you get a ton of trunk space in here. You know, way more than the 3. The hatchback is super nice for being able to fit a bunch of stuff in here. We've got 2 hockey bags in here right now, a stroller, and a bunch of snacks. And there is tons of room still back there for even more things. So this car has a couple of other smart features that I'm not so sure are super smart and are actually pretty frustrating to have. So the rain sensing automatic windshield wipers sound great on paper, and in other cars I've had, they were incredibly helpful. I guess I shouldn't say that they're not at all useful, but they are incredibly aggressive and hypersensitive when you don't want them to be, and then don't seem to realize that it is pouring when you do want them to turn on. So a lot of times you'll get, like, you know, a tiny bit of drizzle or spray or something, and they'll just go into hyper mode and just whip back and forth at the highest speed that they have. But then when it's actually raining, they don't like go on at all, and you have to go to manual mode anyway. So I find that I'm often going to put them in manual over the automatic much more often than I would like, and a lot of people complain about that. I think it's a problem basically with all of the Teslas. So I wish that they could do something about that and improve it, because a lot of other cars get that way better, and it's a much more useful feature for them. And then the other one is the automatic headlights and high beams. So kind of similarly, I feel like, you know, what they're supposed to do is only go into high mode when there's no other cars around and when you're not going to be blinding people, and then shut off like if it detects another car. But I feel like it almost does the opposite. It seems like every time another car is coming, they switch on and I'm blinding somebody, and then, you know, trying to shut them off and apologize. And then they don't actually turn on when it's dark and I need to be able to see better. So I covered it more deeply in my hands-on delivery video, which if you haven't watched, I definitely suggest going back to view. But you're talking about the delivery experience. You know, a lot of pros and cons there too. On the good side, you know, it was very easy and convenient. I had no problems at all with this car. I basically just showed up. The car was in the app already for me. I walked over to it, did it like my own little inspection, made sure everything looked good, and when it did, just basically signed something in the app saying that I accepted it, and it added it to my account and let me in, and I was able to basically just drive away. I just had to drop a couple of forms that I had signed in like a little box at the dealership. So I didn't have to interact with any people at all, really, for the experience. And you know, I think it end to end took no more than about 20 minutes, and that was because I was filming things and kind of going slow to inspect stuff. You could probably get in and out of there in about 5 if you know exactly what you're doing. But on the downside of that, like not having somebody to actually walk you through some of these things, I think is a pretty big downside. You know, this is probably going to be the first EV for a lot of people. We're still only at not even at 5% EV penetration yet, and so you know, a lot of people are going to be new to this experience and certainly new to Teslas, and so like not having somebody who can actually walk you through it all is not super great. I guess you do have the option to kind of go inside and ask for help if you need it, but not having someone who's just like there and kind of a delivery specialist, I don't think is ideal for a lot of people. So it was good that I kind of knew what I was doing, but I feel like other people wouldn't be in that situation, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But overall, I was very happy with the car as it was delivered. It was nice and clean. I ended up having to delay delivery by a little bit over a week because I had the 3 coming in at the same time and I needed to arrange some financial stuff. But they kept it nice and clean for me. The car, you know, even though it was sort of early summer and there was a bunch of pollen and stuff out, the car wasn't dusty. It was nicely cleaned, both inside and outside. No issues with the paint. Everything is matched really well. I've seen, you know, some complaints about, I think, the white paint in particular being kind of problematic, but for this blue, everything looks great. It's all matched, you know, super well. I haven't gone out there with like, you know, a measuring tool to like, you know, make sure that it's millimeter by millimeter perfect, but nothing is noticeably wrong or mismatched or anything like that. No scratches, no dents, stings, or, you know, anything like that. And you know, overall build quality quite good too. Everything seemed well put together, and no issues with gaps or anything like that. So I was really happy with the delivery experience from that standpoint. I'm very happy with how this car was made. So I think one of the other major considerations, of course, with Teslas and EVs right now are, you know, both the cost and the delivery times for them. So when it comes to Model Y, all right, so so then above the regular long range, there is the performance one, which adds another 5,000.
Yes.
So it's 67,990, and that gives you stronger suspension, which is probably the main reason to upgrade, plus faster acceleration, higher horsepower, but you do lose some range with it. So I think for most people, the regular long range is the right set of compromises. But if you care that much about suspension in particular, you might want to consider the performance, or at least doing aftermarket suspension. So with all of the price increases and this car now being a $63,000 car, it is a bit more questionable about you know, whether this is worth it versus some of the competitors. So I'd say, you know, main competitors are probably Mustang Mach-E, maybe the Genesis GV60, the Hyundai Ioniq, and the Kia V6, as well as maybe the Polestar, although that's a bit more of a sedan, so that's probably more competitive with 3. But all of those are cheaper, like sub 60,000. So you do get more range in this, theoretically. Although, and I would say in reality, even though like the EPA numbers on this are way overstated, in reality you're still probably getting about 270, 280 versus like 250s, 260s for the others. So not a massive difference, but a little bit. You're getting, you know, the good software and the supercharging network and the good integration between the hardware and the software. But you know, a lot of those competitors now are getting pretty good at that. You know, you're paying less, and the charging network isn't all that terrible. So there are, you know, a lot of considerations to make with it. You also have, I think, much more comfortable interiors, and, you know, more bells and whistles and features and stuff in a lot of those competitors. So depends on what you care most about. If it's the charging, if you're gonna be doing a lot of road tripping, I still think nothing really can beat a Tesla. If it is gonna be more of a commuting car or a family car, something that you just want to be comfortable in, you know, I think it might be time to start looking at some of the others. So hopefully we'll actually have access to a few of those soon, and I'll be able to bring some comparisons and reviews of those. So I'd still recommend this as the best all-around EV. The Model Y, long range in particular. I don't think you necessarily need the performance unless you care a whole lot about having that extra acceleration and the suspension. This is going to be more than peppy enough and comfortable enough. And it's, you know, I think the best blend of what Tesla offers in terms of comfort, convenience, and range between this and the 3. So I hope this potentially helps anybody make a decision about either moving to a Tesla or moving to, you know, any EV as their first journey from internal combustion engine. One way or the other, I think you're absolutely going to love it. There are so many advantages to an electric car versus internal combustion engine. The range anxiety is a really overblown thing and not going to affect you very often at all. And especially in, you know, a Tesla or a Model Y in particular, you're really not going to have to worry about those things very often. And the convenience, the performance, the comfort, the, you know, software updates and ease of use are all going to more than make up for that on a regular basis. And you're going to save so much money on gas and maintenance that you know, it really does offset the initial purchase price cost if you can get over sort of that sticker shock. So yeah, and we've still got a long way to go with EV adoption in this country in particular, but around the world for sure too. Even though, you know, Teslas do make up close to 75% of EVs on the road right now, EVs overall still haven't even gotten past 5% in the US. There's a long way to go, and, you know, I don't think that it just needs to be Teslas. I think, you know, so many of the other ones are becoming more and more competitive now, and it's actually great for the industry to have that much competition and, you know, to have so many different options for consumers out there. All right, so with all of that, I'd say in conclusion, I think the Model Y is a pretty awesome car, probably one of the best all-around electric vehicles out there. While there are some competitors that are starting to get there, it's still definitely leading away right now and would be my #1 choice for anybody looking to get into their first electric vehicle, especially anybody looking for a little bit more room, willing to sacrifice a tiny bit of range over the 3, but looking for some space for families and possibly getting out there for road tripping. Plus, it's just about the fastest charging car, knowing that you'll have the chargers, which makes it perfect for getting around the country and not having to worry about range anxiety. So I hope that helps. Hope all of the things that I've learned about the car might help in your buying decision and make it a little bit easier for you. I regret nothing at all about getting it, would do it again in a heartbeat, and I will definitely never be going back to a gas car after this. That helps if you are just starting to consider a Tesla or moving from gas to your first EV, some of the pros and cons of it. Overall, I think you'd be very happy with this car. I'm really enjoying it. You know, don't regret taking this one over the 3 at all. And it's been great for us to be able to use this one for these kinds of you know, day and like overnight trips, whereas before we would have been taking our giant Buick Escalade SUV using a ton of gas. Enclave?
Enclave.
What did I say? Escalade. Our Buick Enclave SUV, and using an absolute ton of gas and paying a crazy amount for it. Here we just get to use nice electricity. And it definitely makes a pretty nice car for taking a family road trip to the beach. We made it here, still at 56% range, even better than expected. Definitely aren't gonna have to stop at all on the way home either. So perfect. Awesome family trip out. So if you enjoyed this, if you would like to continue to get more updates on how our Model Y journey is going, learn more about this versus other EVs, learn more about other folks first making their change over to an electric vehicle, please do subscribe. We're gonna have a lot more stuff coming soon. And if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please do give it a like. That helps other people find this as well, and learn more about Tesla and other EVs. And with that, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.